Go a little bit longer. Got a little music playing there. Here down. Hey, it's Jack and GT here. Again, from Fed joints to beer joints. Something's brewing. GT, are you in the Hubble today? Live from the Hubble?
I am back in the Hubble. I am carless today. I took my car in for its 40,000-mile service, and they told me I wouldn't be having it for the whole day, so I was Ubering home.
At least we got the Hubble to stand by. We're going to talk about a place kind of like Hubble anyway. What about this deal with Alcatraz? I got to bring this up. People are talking about it, but the title of today's show is "The Women of Alcatraz," and I'll bet people didn't know about women in Alcatraz, and I didn't know about this for a couple of days ago. Talking to my co-host here, I had no idea like that. We're going to be talking about Alcatraz today, but let's get on this topic right now. It's what the hell the deal is for the women in Alcatraz thing.
Well, it could be a little disingenuous, obviously, but not really. This is all true shit. And we covered an old episode about, I don't know, one of our first episodes, that I was at a coed prison in 1989 and 1990, and they don't have them any longer. And you can go back and look at the episode. But they're like, there's all kinds of jobs, all kinds of jobs. Now, if I wanted to go, sorry, I'm going to make this a little long because I have to explain the dressing part of it. Anyways, now, like if I worked at recreation, so when I go to rec, I got a pair of shorts and a tank top on or whatever, whatever. I want to wear sweats, whatever. I took a job in the plumbing crew so I could get in the girls' unit. And the girls' unit, if you went in there, you had to wear a jumpsuit that had the zipper in the back. So it had a long zipper in the back. That you didn't have a zipper in the front to go to the bathroom because obviously you could pull your piece out and, do the quickie thing. And, so it was kind of tough. And this will get back into the Alcatraz crew because they had to wear them. Although, and a funny sidebar on that story, there was this one Spanish girl. She was hot too. She had a nice body and everything, and she was on the plumbing crew, but she was a female, so she could go in the guys' unit when they would have plumbing problems in there. They would call the plumbing crew in, and she had that jumpsuit on, but she had a piece of Velcro down in the crotch that would open up, So and you really couldn't, when you looked at it, you really couldn't tell, and she was fun. And anyways, it was kind of a known thing around the yard, And when I got there, they told me about it. I go, no way. And she was good looking, big rack. Oh, sorry about that. Anyways, so she comes in our unit, and I was friendly with her boyfriend. We played volleyball together, and I came in. I go, hey, I forget her name, and I said, hey, is it true you got like Velcro on your jumpsuit there? She just peeled it right open and said, yeah, what do you think of that? And I'm like, oh, God, come on. But anyways, back to the Alcatraz story. So when I was in there, Alcatraz was closed to the public. There was no tours. At this point right now, as you probably know, I think they do like $15 or $16 million a year in profits for the park department in San Francisco, California, whatever it is. Well, they take boats out there, ferries out there, and you can go out there and take a tour of Alcatraz. Now, any of you who have been to San Francisco when the fog's not in, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, Alcatraz is right there. You can't miss it, and it's a landmark. It's God, Al Capone was there, but it's just so viewable from downtown San Francisco that people keep taking that tour. Well, when I was there in 1989, it wasn't open to the public, and so they put together an Alcatraz crew. Obviously, they
You were
opened
in
it to
what prison then? What prison were you in?
That was I'm sorry, that was Pleasanton, California. That's what we called it. It's called FCI Dublin.
That was a co-ed prison.
Yeah, I was a co-ed prison. It just closed, as you know. And at that time, for the last 20, 30 years, it's been just all female, and they had problems with the guards sexually assaulting and impregnating the girls, and they closed it down. I heard. Are you up on that? It's closed, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think they moved everybody out. I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But at the time, it was, we all called it Pleasanton. There was 3 units, and A, B, and C. And ironically, I told this in our past video, B unit was actually paid for by William Randolph Hearst. He was the biggest newspaper publisher in the country. He donated the Hearst Castle in California to the state. And, I mean, you couldn't build it or outfit it like it is now. It'd be too expensive. Well, now with the oligarchs we have, you could. But that being said, his daughter Patty Hearst was a Symbionese Liberation Army
Liberation.
member. She got kidnapped. She got Stockholm syndrome, whatever. Next thing you know, she's a little rich girl, heiress. I mean, a big time heiress. Next thing you know, she's got a machine gun in a bank. And for all of you, this is 70s stuff. It was a big deal in the 70s, let me tell you. And so, anyways, Patty, they were going to put her out in Alderson or something in West Virginia, and her dad wanted her to go to Pleasanton because he's a San Francisco guy. Well, he donated the money to build B unit, and it was in there, and it's the only time somebody got to donate money to the Bureau of Prisons. He was a powerful man at the time. So I was in B unit, and when I first went in there, it was A unit was the girls, and B unit was the guys, and C unit was the guys, and there was approximately, let's say 900 to 1,000 people. Let's say 900. So it was 2 to 1 guys to girls when I got there. By the time they closed it, it was basically 5 to 1. It was women to men because they were transferring back to women. But anyways, the guys and the girls, like I said, we wrecked together, we ate together, and as I said previously, we got to wear our own clothes in there. You could have a clothing package sent in. I think it was every 6 months. So, everybody was dressed in street clothes. They weren't dressed. Very few people wore khakis. And then if you had a girlfriend, or if they had a boyfriend, they were called your walkies, because there was a quad in front of all the units. It was all grass with a little asphalt track that went around it with benches all around. And so you would take your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, hold hands. You're allowed to hold hands, and you would walk around the little whatever, the quad, the track, whatever. And so they weren't called your boyfriend or your girlfriend; they were called your walkie. And so, anyways, my walkie's name was Liz. And anyways, so they started this Alcatraz crew, and so there was I think it was 8 people to start. I think it was a guy and a girl that weren't together. Then it was 3 couples, and one of the couples was my friends Larry and Hattie, and I remember their name. Larry was our shortstop on our softball team, and softball is very social in prison. You know that, Jack, even in the guys' prison. But in the coed prison, I mean, that was what you do. I mean, you go out, the guys and the girls, you bring your jug of coffee, and you go out and watch some softball because they were after dinner games. And so it was kind of a big social event. And so I remember Larry and Hattie. Well, 6 of the people that went, if I'm almost positive, they were younger too. They were couples, and so they signed up for this Alcatraz job. And it turned out what they were trying to do was trying to get it open so they could start doing the public tours. And I don't know how many units there were in Alcatraz. I'm not a big, I don't know that. But they were refurbishing one, I think it was downstairs, just one cell block, and certain other, noticeable things in there so the public could go through. So, I mean, this was an old shithole, obviously. It closed in the 60s, I think 62, 63. And so, and this is 89 we're talking about. So you can imagine it was probably infest, rat, and everything else infested. And they weren't trying to make it really nice or anything, but they were trying, they had to make it so people could walk through it without, be safe and not have rodents chasing them. So they had an Alcatraz crew, and it's funny. There was, like I said, 4 girls, 4 guys, but 3 of them were couples, And at Pleasanton, the Alcatraz crew, everybody knew that the CO, correctional officer, he was cool. And as long as you got some work done, he'd let you go run around. You know, he'd want to sit there, and they didn't have phones then, so God knows, you know, he just wanted to sit around and sleep or whatever. Anyways, the three couples, and I knew them all. They're cute girls and everything. Well, they got on this crew because they could go out there and go smash it. You know, they go have sex without getting caught. And so, if let me explain to you the rules about getting caught having sex in this coed thing, because you know, people would probably going, no way they had a coed prison. Well, they did. Well, if you got caught having sex, the guy was gone. Boom, he's gone. The girl, as a rule, would go to MCC San Diego. Now she could get a disciplinary back to Lexington or you know, wherever. If a girl got pregnant, as a rule, they couldn't prove it unless they caught him, you know, smashing it. The guy didn't get. They couldn't ship the guy, but the girl, and they would usually hide it as long as they could because they would have to go to MCC San Diego. Then they would have the baby, and then a few months later they'd be back on the yard again. And this for if you didn't have a spot to go have sex, the Alcatraz crew was a known thing. It wasn't really nice or anything, you know. There was no place clean. It was probably stand-up shit. But anyways, you know, there were some other hiding spots. Now me and Liz, we didn't. I was worked recreation, so I mowed the lawn, and the guy. So I had to check out the. They had a riding lawnmower that the guys from landscape would bring in from the outside, and I would ride around and mow the lawns out on rec. Well, I got friendly with them, and Liz, my girlfriend, Shagra, she told me, she goes, hey, you know, they got a spot up there. You got to talk to Dave and Richie. So I kind of got friendly with them, and they go, look, we'll let you have Wednesdays. And then me and Liz on Wednesdays, she would bring our like some clean sheets and a little candle. Well, there was a candle up there actually, and you had to move a toolbox in the middle of the landscape shack and crawl up it and move a panel in the roof of the landscape shack and crawl up there and then put the panel back and then move the toolbox from the middle of the, you know, it's a big roll-out toolbox. And so we had a spot, is my point. So every Wednesday we could go up there and have sex, horse around, and but other people were looking for spots. So the Alcatraz crew was a known, you know, you got, you know, if you were a couple, you could go hook up, and eventually then one of them girls got pregnant, and she was a cute little blonde girl, and she got shipped off to San Diego. Now when I left, this is '89. They were still going, and this later didn't open up to the public. So that's the story behind the girls at Alcatraz.
You know, they're going to be dancers and stuff. You know, the whole Alcatraz thing is kind of weird anyway. I mean, and obviously we know it's coming from the White House about opening Alcatraz up, and I'm seeing quotes now from some other people in Washington. I think this would be a good idea because we could put our really, you know, tough criminals in there so they aren't walking the streets and stuff. And I don't have any experience at Alcatraz, but as you know, I was the clerk, the education clerk at the Alcatraz of the Rockies, the ADX in Florence, Colorado. And I wasn't an inmate in the ADX. I was at the camp. And how it works here is that the camp inmates, because we were low security, they take us over to work the ADX. And the ADX is a very secure facility. If you go in that place one time, you know you're not sneaking out of that damn thing. You know, it's partly underground, and it's just a hell of a place to go into. And the thing about that is, if they're worried about putting criminals someplace, why don't they fill that place up? You know, it's never been capacity ever, and you know it's already built. And you know, and they've had the tough guys. You know, the Unabomber was in there, Robert Hansen, the FBI mole, the Boston bomber's in there right now, and of course, now El Chapo's in there now. I think, isn't he?
Yeah, he sure is.
Yeah, now, he wasn't there when I was there, but the Unabomber was there. I was his librarian.
And the 9/11 terrorist was there when you were there. The last one, the number 20.
Yeah. And so there's some interesting characters. I never met any of them. because it's a very secure facility. We had the library, we got all their requests that they write and send in. It was a bizarre setup, but for the cost of what they're talking about, this Alcatraz thing going, and if you think about it overall, like how much money they bring in from tourists, switching it over to rebuilding that place. I don't know what it costs to rebuild. I saw a thing where it said $3.5 million to make it habitable for workers. I mean, what the
Right.
hell? Yeah.
And you truck all the water out, and they don't have power. Well, now, you could get power. You could do wind power there because the bay there's, San Francisco Bay there is pretty windy for the most part. So that's different. But you're right. It's crazy. The ADX, and for you people, I went over and worked at the ADX a couple times, and they do the guards there. They like take pride in it that it's the most dangerous prison, and they do call it the Alcatraz of the Rockies. That's not, he's not making this up. That's, they like to pin their thing on it. When in reality, next door is the penitentiary, and that's way more dangerous. And
Way
that's
more
where the
dangerous.
guards, the guards, that's way more dangerous for the guards because the penitentiary guys are running around, and
Yeah.
the ADX guys, it's underground. I've only been over there twice, but Jack can attest to this. When you walk in the ADX, there's almost like a tension of madness, and it's got a different feel than. And I've been to a lot of prisons. I worked when I would. They would have lockdowns when the pen would have riots. They would lock it down, and so that means none of their people could get out of their cells and they couldn't work. Then they would get everyone at the camp, and they would put you on. It was called pen lockdown, and you would have to go over there and make meals, and work in the kitchen and make meals and roll the carts out. And nobody wanted to do it because it was long hours. You got to eat, yeah, you got to eat okay, but so I didn't do time in a pen, but that pen is dangerous, but it doesn't have that feel of that ADX because these guys never. Well, some of them get a little more rec and a little more freedom, but for the most part, their visits are
Well, their
video.
freedom is based on that on the 23-and-1 rule, which which I don't think was being enforced when I was there. 23-and-1 rule is they're in for 23 hours in these cells by themselves, no contact with anyone other than whoever brings their child and slides it in there and stuff. And the 1 hour a day for outside their cell, which is not outside your cell, but
It's connected to their cell action.
connected to the cell basically.
Right.
And yeah, and I've been down to the cells, went down and cleaning details, and I'm gonna tell you what. But I'll tell you to this day that the weirdest thing I ever saw there was they took us downstairs in the basement, and there's a gymnasium down there, and it's spotless. It's got dust, but I mean, as far as I don't think it's ever been used for anything. Uh, and they have supplies that we get it. But in the gymnasium, is a couple of these dog kennel runs, with these manacles and shackles hanging inside it, and that's or was used. I am told. I've never seen it. I'm told those guys said they had a special visit for some of the inmates, like with clergy or something like that, outside the cell. They would put him in those dog runs to do it. And you're talking about a whole different breed of inmate there. I mean, you got a lot of the terrorists there. These terrorists are convicted. There's none of them like down there to that, the hell's the name of that prison down there? They hold them at, I can't think of the name of it.
El Salvador there.
Down there, they just hold the, what was the
Yeah.
name of the prison they held all the terrorists at for a long time?
Guantanamo.
Guantanamo. Those guys
Yeah.
haven't been convicted. The guys that were convicted are in there. You got the guy that survived here on the Oklahoma City bombing,
Nichols.
Terry Nichols, and he's in there, and he's told on his buddy, so he didn't get fried. They fried his buddy. But anyway, but GT's right. You walk in that place, and I did it every day, 5 days a week for quite a while, just to work. And you go through the system in there, and you're outside. You go through the first metal detector, then the hallway, then a metal detector, then around there, and you go in. And once you're in there, you're moving in there. You're walking hallways where inmates come in that never leave breathing. I mean, this is it. That's the end. And it has an ominous feeling. And back when I was in law enforcement, I thought I was in some ominous places, and Latuna was no picnic by anything, but I never had this feeling at Latuna. It's almost a haunting feeling,
Yes.
like ghosts and stuff like that. I don't believe in ghosts and stuff like that.
Madness.
It
I
is,
think
yeah.
it's madness running
Yeah.
around.
and the level of
You
that,
lock some.
yeah,
Come on, there's no contact, Jack. No
no,
contact. Your visits are on video for the most part, unless you work your way up into another thing, and then they might put you on the dog run you're talking about. But for the most part, that's part of the punishment, is the complete, you know, just disassociation from humanity, and I think you can feel that. I felt kind of like I could feel madness. It's just an odd feeling.
but it is because you stop thinking you're isolated all the time. Now, I used to get requests in for the inmates at the different levels of people there. What amazed me was there's like this one guy he had like a mind of like a third or fourth grader, and he'd get crayons and we send him down. He'd draw pictures of clowns and they'd send him back to us to mail out to his grandmother. And then you had Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, who'd want these manuals sent into him. And we had a library there. We'd get these things for him, and he'd do these mathematical equations and stuff. And the guy was a brainiac, there's no doubt about that. And it's oddly enough, some of the people like Terry Nichols was a pain in the ass. The guy blipped he was a pain in the ass, just a pain in the ass all the time. But the terrorists, I guess you call them that, were the most polite people in the world. I mean, everything they wanted was please, thank you, all this, and all the time. And you thought, but if you get out of there, you blow me up if you had a chance, but you'd be polite about it. But there was we had an office there. There's a little square opening where you could actually see the sun come in. There's actually a piece of ground there, and I don't know what the hell that was about. It was just a little piece of square ground, and that was the only opening that damn place we ever saw. And we were only there in the day probably by 7:34, and when you got out of that place at 4 o'clock, you were mentally shot. I mean, it literally would drain you in that time period. It was freaking bizarre.
I remember how much you wanted to get out of there. Jack went over there as a favor to our CO who ran recreation. What was his name? Sabonis, wasn't it? Or
Sabino,
no,
Sabino.
Sabino. I'm thinking of the basketball player. And Jack made Sabino look good. Sabino, was a star. He got his star risen because of Jack, and so he took him over there. And I remember after a little while, man, you were coming back, just going, "Fuck, man, I got to get out of there. This place is just sucking the life out of me."
Well, what
And
happens, so people understand, is these correctional officers who have jobs like in recreation and in education and things like that, they bid jobs in other departments. Now, I think that job in recreation over there, which makes no sense, a recreation job in that place, paid more, I think. Anyway, Sabino wanted that job. And he told me I was his clerk. He said, I go, you're going with me, man. You got to go. So I never been in there. So I knew life experience while you're in prison. And so he got that. We went over there and we reorganized the whole thing. I and that little guy, I can't remember his name, California.
Wade.
Wade, I and Wade. And someday we'll tell the
We'll
Wade
tell
story.
we'll tell the Wade story someday.
Yeah, we got to, but we got to be standing up outside or something. I'll have to demonstrate it. But anyway, we went over there, rearranged things, and Sabino and it was just terrible after I was there I don't know how many months it was. That was it. And I had to get the hell out of that place. And the COs could get out and leave and go off someplace, but we were down in that hellhole. And it's hard. I don't know what you do with people like that because you can't let them out. Is it inhumane there? There's no question. Now the question is, all these people actually, do they deserve humane treatment or not? Well, I don't know. I can't answer that with some. There's some ruthless bastards in there who would get out. I think guys from Aryan Brotherhood was in there.
The head of
Yeah,
Silverstein or Silver, I
yeah,
forget his name, and really I mean, it's not just federal inmates that are in there. These guys come from state institutions and they're so dangerous that the states can't deal with them, and they don't really have the capability. So the head of the ABs and stuff, they come in there, and they tell them, "You give me the chance, I'll kill one of your guards," and
yeah.
that's all they live for, because they know they're not getting out.
There was a
And
CO who told me there. I'll leave him nameless, but he told me that one inmate there wanted to get over to the pen. And he said that he knew there was a guy over there who was no good, causing problems. And he said that when he was getting transferred to the EDX, he'd heard about it. And so he wrote a request to the warden that if you send me over there, that guy's causing you a problem, I'll kill him for you. And then, you can just leave me over there and take his place. And I'll make it calms down. He was serious, sincere. And he said, if I don't get him killed, you can just bring me back here. I just break his neck and he don't die, just bring me back. And the guy said he wasn't laughing. That's how he wouldn't cut a deal. Of course, the warden, he wasn't going to do that. Might have wanted to. But
I'm surprised he didn't.
yeah, I mean, some of those guys, because that pen would go off, you know. The crazy thing, you leave that place, we used to walk back. Remember, you walk back past the maximum and then the medium?
And then you get on the bus.
Yeah. And then there's something nice that you just walk back all the way out to the camp. But I remember walking past, there was a medium that had all the Indians, wasn't it? That they jumped up down there.
Yeah, they're the Chiefs.
Oh,
Yeah.
just raising hell down, war whooping and running around and stuff. All those places are crazy. But the most dangerous places is not the ADX. I mean, it's not. It's really because those guys ain't going nowhere. I mean, they don't move those guys out of a big entourage and wrapping them up.
Yeah.
And they move from one cell to the other for cleaning purposes. That's about it. That's it. So do you need Alcatraz? I don't know. You can't even fill this one up. What are you gonna do with that? What would you fill Alcatraz with?
I don't know what. I think it's just he's. You know how our president likes to just throw shit out there to deflect some a little attention from other things that he really doesn't want attention from. So he throws Alcatraz has the name, but to give Donald Trump his credit, it's been on movies, it's been on television. Al Capone was there. I could see Trump wanting it, but it's going to cost hundreds of millions, and it still won't be effective.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's like ADX has never had an escape. In fact, they've never really had an escape attempt. How would you attempt it? There's no way to it. Even the way you don't escape is don't even allow for an attempt. Alcatraz has had escape attempts. They had the
and two that made it.
Yeah, well, Frank Morris and those two brothers, the Anglin brothers, or whatever it is, they've never accounted for it. Now, where they end up, we don't know.
They could be shark bait.
Yeah, it could be, and they might have made. And don't forget Clint Eastwood, because Clint did it.
Well, yeah, he was the Frank whatever character, right?
Yeah, he was the Frank character in that whole thing.
Yeah,
but I've never been to Alcatraz. I've never been out to it as a tourist or anything, so I don't know. It just seems like just let the tourists go out there, to hell with it. It's very weird to me to even think about this right now. And the other problem he'd have is he wants the BOP, the Bureau of Prisons, to take care of this. And and most people watch this will not know about the Bureau of Prisons. Bureau of Prisons can't take care of a goddamn camp with minimum security doctors and accountants in it, let alone take care of a major prison like that with taken out with real killers and stuff like that. They can't handle it. But few COs they got are worth a damn, and there's a few. They're tied up. They're in those big places, and they ain't going. They're gonna let them out there. The other ones, it's a sad state of affairs when it comes to personnel in the Bureau of Prisons. It really is. Think about it.
That's the dregs of law enforcement to me.
Oh my God.
And I've seen them all. It's the dregs of law enforcement. We'll have stories later.
I remember when we were in Latuna, and actually some of the guys in Kentucky. I mean, the only difference between the inmates and the correctional officers was the color of our shirt. In Latuna, it was amazing, the corruption down there, and Kentucky wasn't a hell of a lot better. Florence was kind of different because Florence was the showboat prison system for the Bureau of Prisons. That's where the senators and congressmen visited, so you had to be a little careful about that.
Yeah, they kind of stepped on it a little harder there. They did. And for just to clear up with the audience, because you're not aware of this, the camps don't have a warden because usually a camp it's next to a pen, a medium, or in the one me and Jack were at. Well, I've been to a couple, but they had a medium, which is called an FCI. They had a pen, which is a penitentiary, obviously, and then they had the ADX. And now, while we were there, Jack, all three of them ran us at one time. The camp doesn't run itself. The camp has an administrator. But actually, it's a warden either from the ADX, the pen, or the medium, and they all fought over, we want the camp. I don't know if you remember, we had that woman that was running us when she was running the medium when we had the riot. And then sometimes the pen would run us. But for the most part, the ADX ran us, and that's why Sabino cops could go back and forth because the camp was just an arm to do all the work for the higher securities, and at that most of the time the ADX ran us.
Yeah, that's it's kind of a strange system. We're gonna we're gonna shut this off here for today. And anything to add to all that, GT? Anything exciting?
Yeah, I want to apologize because last week I told you we were going to be going over to our brewers over at Evans Brewing and talking to my boy Scott about tariffs and aluminum cans and all that, and our schedules didn't work out, and so we saw the Alcatraz thing come up, and we figured. And I told Jack. So, anyways, next week we're going to be over there to Evans Brewing and talking to Scott. And Scott's funny, man. Scott's a good guy, man. He looks out for me. So that's all. I'm just doing a little promo.
Oh, good. Next week, live with Scott. That'd be a good title. Anyway, that's it for Jack and GT from Head Joints, Beer Joints. Something's always brewing. We'll see you next week.